seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Own it, own it, own it, Kong. I own it. It did.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Happy Monday, family. Welcome to WWT Live as part of Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. I am the Professor Gerard Bonner. It is phenomenal to have you guys rolling with us as we talk a whole lot about wrestling. Now, there's a lot that happened this weekend and a lot that's happened today. We're going to get into all of it, but I am not alone. Cue up Michael Jackson. He is here with me, not Michael Jackson, but from across the pond. It's the master of all things Black Wrestling Alliance. A-Dazzle is in the building. What's going on, brother?
Yo. Yeah, man, it's good to be here, showing my face every now and again when I can, and I'm right here. So let's get into it. We've got a lot to talk about today.
We have an awful lot. Yeah, an awful lot to talk about. Shout out to Jermaine. He is in the chat. How are you today? And feel free to share this, guys, with all of your friends and loved ones, and be active in the chat as you always are. So we're going to go to our first
top rope.
As we go off the top rope. Hey, Dazzle, what you got for us, brother?
So we have finally got the news that we've all been waiting for maybe like 2 years, maybe longer. We are finally getting and have been told that we are getting Ring of Honor on a weekly basis. It's going to be on Ring of Honor Club, and it's going to be every Thursday, 6 Central. I don't know what time that is for me, but I'll find out and try and watch it. But we are finally getting Ring of Honor on a weekly basis. It's about time.
Yeah, it is about time. I would queue up Lizzo, but I try to be good on shows like this. But yeah, it is really about time for this. And, we have waited nearly a year. It's been almost a calendar year since Tony Khan announced in the middle of an AEW ring that he had purchased Ring of Honor. We waited a long time to see what would happen. There's been about 3 or 4 Ring of Honor named pay-per-views, but no Ring of Honor television. And we had said that we'd be good even if it was something, on the internet or on a streaming service. So it's really good to see that it is back on Honor Club. It's really cool because the gang is back. You got Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman back on commentary. They shot these episodes in Orlando, in the same places that they're shooting Dark. So it's a really good look. I have purposely stayed away from all sorts of spoilers because I want to be able to enjoy the return of Ring of Honor. And one of the things about Ring of Honor is, they never brought us a live weekly show anyway. So, it doesn't really hurt that it's taped. It doesn't hurt us at all because that is consistent with what we've had. The one thing that's different is that there is finally one central place that we all can watch Ring of Honor, which will be as part of Honor Club this Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, which is like midnight British Standard Time. So either you'll stay up really, really late or you will, watch the next morning, which is perfectly fine. But the main event for the first show, we'll feature a Ring of Honor title match as the world champion Claudio Castagnoli will defend against AR Fox. So you know that is going to be a banger. And I think we got a delay for A Dazzle. I think if he's not frozen, the joys of being live. I think he's frozen, so hopefully he'll be able to hop back with us there. Are you back, A Dazzle? I think his internet is bothering him there, but no worries. So we've got Ring of Honor making its way back. I think you're back. Are you back there, A Dazzle?
I like to think. I hope I am. I think I am.
Okay.
I don't know what happened.
Okay. We could do that. But yeah, I'm excited about the return of Ring of Honor. And again, it's on a weekly basis. This will be leading us up, of course, to the Supercard of Honor, which is coming at the end of the month during WrestleMania week. Yep. How are you feeling about regular Ring of Honor shows showing up on a weekly basis?
Yeah, as we've as we said, finally we're here. It's happening. The best part about it is the fact that we'll get to see some wrestlers on a weekly basis, given their time on TV, not just every now and again appearing on Dark or on Rampage or the 2 or 3 Ring of Honor pay-per-views that we've had. So it should be interesting. Hopefully we'll see some decent storylines coming from all of this as well. Give the champions even more TV time and stuff like that. So it's gonna be exciting. I'm excited for it. I'm just anticipating how this whole thing's gonna play out and what direction they take the wrestlers and the show on a whole.
No, I'm totally with you on that. And it's funny because we think the last time we really saw regular Ring of Honor programming was coming out of the pandemic when they were doing empty arena shows, basically, because they had that last show as that final battle in 2021. So, they had a few shows with fans back, but yeah, so this will be kind of a real jumpstart and reset for Ring of Honor, which I think will be amazing. Shout out to JD in the chat who says A Dazzle was bedazzled by the Ring of Honor news. That's hilarious. And then Boza says Ring of Honor should have enough TV to get them to Mania, but I worry only 1 month to hype up WrestleMania. A card like this should be more than 1 month. You know what? I agree with you, Boza. I think the other side of it, though, is with 4 weeks of TV for Ring of Honor that is specifically dedicated to Ring of Honor, I think that gives them a better chance to push a strictly Ring of Honor show compared to what they've had in the last year, where all they've had is just kind of inserts inside of an AEW package. So this, I think, will be a good space for them. And again, I'm not sure how much hyping they will need storyline-wise for something like this, getting up into the Mania Week show for Supercard of Honor. But we'll see. I mean, they've had enough very unique challenges that were unplanned, of course, with the passing of Jay Briscoe. So, I'm not sure story-wise how much they need, but I think the idea that we're just getting, our own Ring of Honor stuff is going to be hopefully enough to have that convert into pay-per-view buys. Our boss is here. Shout out to TK the Great, the #1 TK around here in the wrestling business. So shout out to her. But yeah, it should be a great time there for Ring of Honor. Again, Ring of Honor weekly television premieres this Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 12 a.m. British Standard Time, of course, on Honor Club. So that should be a lot of fun. All right. Let's see. Let's go here because the WWE had some big numbers coming out of the Elimination Chamber. Do you want to talk about that, A Dazzle? I think we still have that beautiful delay for A Dazzle. Okay. No worries. We'll see if we can get that Fixed, all good. So here's the deal with Elimination Chamber. A lot of us were clearly watching, and the numbers are proving that, as WWE has announced that Elimination Chamber was the highest grossing and most viewed Elimination Chamber in company history. That's pretty crazy. Viewership of Elimination Chamber 2023 saw a 54% increase compared to the previous record set in 2022. It's also the largest gate for any WWE event held in Montreal. It's the largest gate in the history of the Elimination Chamber. It broke the all-time event merchandise record for any event that was not a Big Five premium live event. It was also the highest grossing Priority Pass fan experience as well. And in case we're not sure of what the Big Five are, that is, of course, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and Money in the Bank. So this was a massive moment for the Elimination Chamber. And then it also said that sponsorship revenue for the Elimination Chamber was up, get this, 300% compared to 2022. Simply put, wow. WWE is rolling in a lot of money after Elimination Chamber. What are your thoughts on that, Dazzle?
I'm hoping you guys can hear me and see me properly. But for me, I mean, I remember we spoke about the show before, in the lead up to Elimination Chamber, and it was the first time in a long time I was actually excited for Elimination Chamber, like genuinely excited. Obviously, we had the whole thing with Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns. That's been like the biggest story for the last year. Everyone was kind of anticipating how that one was gonna play out. So you had that in the mix. I think the men's Elimination Chamber match was kind of, it was a big one. Again, it was kind of, this whole thing where you wasn't too sure who was gonna come out on top. You were gonna see, Seth Rollins. It was Montez Ford. Us as Black fans for sure, expecting to see what happens with Montez Ford. And then just everything else that was on the card. You had Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley, of course, as well. So there was so much going on. So I'm not overly surprised that it's done as well as it did. And again, I think it's, this whole thing with Sami, and obviously then in Montreal as well. It's no surprise whatsoever. No surprise at all.
Absolutely. Let's see. Boza says he's going back to the ROH conversation, saying that's because there was no real direction for Ring of Honor. I think Tony Khan is a rich person who has money to throw around, so WWE wouldn't get AEW. Now we have suffered the consequences for a year. For sure, I definitely think it'll be interesting to see what happens with Ring of Honor. We'll give it a chance and see what happens in these next few weeks. Now, Boza is also saying that this news about Elimination Chamber almost doesn't feel special. They've had these numbers for every pay-per-view under the Triple H regime. Now, I'm going to counteract that. And here's why I'm going to counteract that. I feel like the reason it has to be mentioned and it is special is because Triple H and WWE are right now riding a lot of momentum. And while you're riding momentum, sharing these facts and figures builds the momentum. It causes it to be a greater snowball. So, Elimination Chamber being what it is, being able to say that, okay, where we are right now, we've made more money this Elimination Chamber versus last Elimination Chamber. Bigger gate, more people have watched, more merchandise. What that's ultimately saying is what we're doing now is more successful than what we did a year ago. And truth be told, Triple H has to say that every time he can. Because what it ultimately tells the stockholders and everybody else is that Triple H at the helm is financially best for business, that the content is translating to people, that people are appreciating this, and that's why they're coming out. Rest assured, if Vince McMahon was in that chair, he'd be doing the exact same thing. And remember when Tony Khan was breaking records over in AEW, he tell you that all the time. It's a great business move. So I think it feels special. Now, this is where we have to be careful. when we start saying things like this don't feel special when they make this kind of news, it's because we get used to winning too fast. That's a whole nother place. I can't fully go there like I want to, but we don't, we win so quickly that when more wins happen, we don't take the time to celebrate them. So we just, oh, they won again. It's almost like the 83-week win, you know, for WCW Nitro. Oh, they win again. Well, here's the deal. They weren't always going to be winning, as we've seen. So I think we have to take advantage of these moments. You know, the fact that WrestleMania has already had the biggest gate in its history, and there are what, maybe 2 matches announced, and this was happening before. Let me tell you, that is a sign of something great happening. So we don't want to dismiss that just because it keeps happening. It keeps happening means we're in a special time. And so we have to really be able to acknowledge that. JD, he said it had a great story going into it. Not completely surprised that it beat the other Elimination Chamber. Totally agree. And Triple H at the helm is what's best for business. You know, it's interesting watching what has happened in WWE since summer, July of 2022, with Triple H being at the helm. A lot of people wondered, could he keep that same momentum that he had kind of starting back in July? And here we are on our way to Mania, and we're all still loving the product, you know? So shout out to Triple H. What are your thoughts, man, on all of this, A-Dazzle?
And that's the as well.
Uh-oh.
This Wi-Fi is killing me right now. Forgive me, guys. But that's the great thing about this with Triple H. As you said, you know, you have to always keep saying, you know, that you're winning. Like you mentioned, the 83 weeks with Nitro, they were saying they're winning every week for 83 weeks. There was no guarantee that the following week they were going to be winning. There was no guarantee. So you have to keep it going. And as you said, that momentum is real. Then we're coming up to the biggest show of the year. For you to have this momentum before the biggest show, already sold, you know, however many tickets they've sold already, and record numbers and all the rest of it. It's about to be a hell in WWE right now. And you know, I'm just excited to see where things are going, because even Sami Zayn himself has said it, you know, in an interview that he had a few weeks back, talking about before Triple H came in, you would see his face every now and again, but he wasn't in the same, on the same. Triple H is here. He's there. He's the big star right now. How the fans will take that into consideration, just exactly what happens, and these numbers from Elimination Chamber are the proof. It's the straight proof of what's happening at the moment.
Yeah, it's exciting to see, and so I'm excited to see kind of what happens next. Of course, we're about 5.5 weeks away from WrestleMania, and so we will see what's going to happen with that. Speaking of WrestleMania, Bayley just had a very interesting interview, and she talked to Ariel Helwani, the second favorite journalist of AR Khan. And so in that conversation, she named kind of her perfect scenarios for WrestleMania. And one of them involves her fighting Lita. The other involves her, in her words, fighting Sasha Banks, which I think is extremely interesting. And one of the things that she says in this interview, which is about 20 minutes with Ariel Helwani, is that she's still holding out hope that Sasha will at some point return to WWE. So, A-Dazzle, let me ask you your thoughts there on, number one, these two ideal opponents there for Bayley, and is Bayley onto something? Will at some point we see Sasha back in WWE?
To answer that second question, most definitely, but it's going to be a long time. It's not going to be like next year, in 2 years, probably not even in 3 years. Sasha's got a whole load of things that she wants to check off her list now, that she's free to do whatever she wants, how she wants, when she wants, where she wants.
Yeah.
It's not going to be, oh, but let me go back to WWE because, I'm not sure what I'm doing next. It's got time. And I think any type of program, hoping, Bayley's still got a great level of momentum and is still relevant and all that kind of thing. Any program with Bayley, with Sasha, any type of Sasha return would be perfect. I think it would be absolutely perfect. We've seen the ups and downs with them already, but I don't think we'd be bored of it because it's going to be such a long time since we've seen Sasha in the WWE, and anything with Bayley would be great. I think a Bayley and Lita thing, we're in that with Becky in the mix at the moment, of course. I mean, me personally, I don't know how that plays out, but for her, that's her. So, let's see how it works, and hopefully we'll get there. We might even get it this year, but with Becky and Damage Control in the mix.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's going to be interesting tonight. Of course, you've got Becky and Lita taking on Damage Control for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. You wonder if any of that will somehow play out into possibly Bayley and Lita at Mania, or some unique combination of all of these women finding themselves at Mania. Of course, that title match takes place tonight on Monday Night Raw, which I think is going to be very, very, very interesting. Speaking of women, there's a story that's popping out about an indie talent that I've had the pleasure of being connected to in a couple of ways, and that is Ashley D'Amboise, who is a trainee from the Nightmare Factory. It is being reported that she has been offered a contract with AEW. Now, sources have not confirmed over to Fightful whether or not it was a full-time deal or a tiered deal, but people believe that she'll be signing within the next couple of weeks, which I think is interesting. Now, she has recently appeared on NWA USA. She's also been, of course, on Impact. She had a big match against Deonna Purrazzo. And then she, of course, has been in and out of AEW. We've seen her in Battle Slam. We've seen her in a number of varying spaces. I'm very high on Ashley D'Amboise. I think she'd be a very intriguing introduction and addition to AEW. Have you had a chance to see Ashley in action yet?
I have a few times in AEW, of course. She's got the look. I know she's relatively older. I won't say old because she's younger than me, so she's not old. But she started off a little bit later than most. But it's been said that she's caught on to this whole thing, learning the ropes very, very quickly. So I'm not surprised in the slightest, if I'm honest. She even appeared on Rampage. So it doesn't surprise me. It's going to be exciting to see what they do with her if it is a full-time contract. She's got a lot. She's got a lot to give, and has a bright future.
Yeah, she definitely does. Boza says, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a tiered deal. She had just qualified for the NWA Women's Television Championship Tournament. What would make AEW interested in Ashley? Well, I think the answer in terms of what makes AEW interested in Ashley is she spent quite a bit of time there, doing matches on Dark, doing matches on Rampage. Also the connection between her coach, QT Marshall, who's also a VP over at AEW. I think there are a lot of reasons why they'd be interested in Ashley. And I think one of the things that ends up happening with some of the talent that ends up on Dark or that doesn't end up in a prime position in AEW is sometimes people don't get to see how good these folks really are. Because the matches that they're in don't give them the time or opportunity to show how great they are. And so in terms of why AEW would be interested in her, I think AEW's probably had a bigger and better chance to see her overall body of work and potential in terms of what she can get done. Now, it's funny because I'm sitting here thinking she could be a part of AEW, but she could also now be a part of Ring of Honor.
Very
which
true.
I think would be very, very interesting because we're not fully sure of what Ring of Honor's women's division actually looks like, other than Athena as its champion. So I think there's an opportunity to build that women's division. And personally, I actually like that idea. And I like that idea because there are fewer people fighting for that TV time in Ring of Honor compared to AEW. There's more of an opportunity, I think, to actually get some time on there and have some great matches and build towards some things and actually be noticed in that division. Not that she wouldn't be noticed in AEW, but I think there's just a lot of people fighting for kind of that prime time real estate that's there on AEW. Shout out to Ron. Good to see you, good brother. And he said, yeah, he had the pleasure of seeing Ashley at an indie show last year. She was outstanding. I will tell you guys this. I have said this multiple times on commentary with Ashley. If you get a chance to see it, you will know exactly what I'm about to say. I believe that if you have a creative player for a women's wrestler, she is Ashley Danbois. Ashley has the look. She's got the power game. She's got the agility. She can turn it on a dime. She can be a fan favorite. She can be a villain. She can get it all done. She's got the look. She's able to adjust quickly. She learns fast. She's who you want. And she can go represent your company very, very well. So if indeed this is the case, it's not a surprising signing for me. I'm really happy to see this for Ashley, who has certainly worked very, very hard to get to this space. So shout out to Ashley Danbois. So with that said, I got a couple of other interesting stories here. Let's go to this one, which I think there's room for some real discussion on this one because a WWE Hall of Famer who has been connected to AEW has had a very interesting piece to say. We're talking about Jake the Snake Roberts. Adrian, you want to tackle this one? Do you have this one up? You want to tackle this?
Yeah. It has been very interesting to hear the stories of Jake the Snake. Whether you've heard multiple stories, one or two, it's always that he's like the biggest bad guy in wrestling history, or over the years and stuff like that. Obviously, we've seen WWE do their Superstar show on the Sundays, and Jake the Snakes was the most recent one. I haven't seen this one myself, but I know, Gerard, you've got a lot to say about this one. I know.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about it because it was really, really powerful. But Jake was in a recent interview, and in that interview, he was talking to Wrestle Rant, and one of the things that he was saying was that everything in wrestling these days is rushed, that they're not taking time to develop characters, that the things that are happening in the ring are rushed. And at the end of the night, in his words, nothing sticks. So he's hoping part of what he gets to do in AEW is help develop characters and help them develop their interview skills. So he's going to try and help a lot of folks do that, which I think will be necessary. But I want to get your thoughts. Do you think that a lot of what we're seeing in pro wrestling these days is rushed?
If I'm completely honest, I absolutely 100% agree. There are very few cases now where we have, purposeful long-term storytelling. Sometimes we can laugh and joke, and when we see a feud revisited or something like that, we coin it long-term storytelling. It really isn't. But I do feel as though a lot of things are rushed. But at the same time, to be, I guess, a bit of a devil's advocate, or to be, in defense of these things as well, I think it's the way of the world as well, to where the fans change their mind very quickly as well. Plus, just the environments and how people's lives are these days. Certain things can just happen at the drop of a hat, and you have to change storylines, or you have to change the direction of something, or someone gets injured and then, you have to change something and stuff like that. But I still do believe there is still room for stories to have a longer term story, a longer term storytelling, for characters built a little bit better, with a lot more purpose. But at the moment, it's the way of the world. We're kind of getting through it. But in general, I do agree with what Jake is saying on this.
Yeah, I want to throw this question out there to the chat as well. I want you guys to type your opinions and thoughts on this. Do you agree with Jake the Snake Roberts that most of wrestling is very rushed these days, whether it's moves in the ring, how long a feud lasts, interviews, etc.? Are they rushed? I'd love to hear your thoughts. JD says, I think they're rushing Cody's title right now. Make him chase it. Now, here's what's interesting to that, JD. I think their original plan was for him to end up at this spot at this time. The injury obviously caused some real issues with that. Had he not had that injury, I think we were on the road to seeing that long-term chase. Now, here's what we don't know. There's, I think, a lot of assumptions that he will win the championship at WrestleMania. What if he doesn't? If he doesn't, we've got this chase that you're talking about, JD. So it's interesting. The closer we get to WrestleMania, the less I think it's a foregone conclusion that Cody wins the championship. Considering we're getting close to the 1,000-day mark. We just crossed 900 days for Roman Reigns. Will it be enough to have him as the 5th longest reign of all time? Or will they want to put him at number 4, which means we've got to cross 1,000-day mark, which means we go past WrestleMania. So I don't know. I think there are all kinds of questions. And then there's the whole Jey Uso piece and Sami Zayn piece and all of that, which lends itself, strangely enough, to the point coming from Jake the Snake Roberts, which is long-term storytelling. This bloodline thing has been going on for the better part of 2 years. I mean, we can go back literally into the empty arena, the pandemic, the Thunderdome era, to see things between Roman and Jey popping off. Yep. And we've watched this build. And I think it's one of the reasons why we're all so invested in it, is because A, it's done very well, but it's done over a long period of time, which I think is something special. So it's interesting. I think a number of folks have quite the opinion about Cody and Roman. Let's see. JD says, I'd love to see him chase it to SummerSlam. And Ronell says he believes that should happen as well. JD feels like Roman retaining would be great. And that seems to be the consensus, which I think, again, part of the interesting challenge here is with wrestling fans, we think we figured it out, right? So because we think we figured it out, we're almost watching now to see if we were right, as opposed to, did I enjoy what's being presented in front of me? So I think a big swerve for a lot of people would be Roman retaining at WrestleMania. People would lose their mind at the idea of Cody, and think about it. There are elements of it that make sense. Cody, obviously wants to finish the story, but even in main eventing WrestleMania, Cody will do something that nobody in his family's ever done, and that is main event of WrestleMania. So now, if we're talking about winning a world title, does it have to happen at Mania? Can it be pushed to SummerSlam? I don't know. Interesting.
I mean, for me, I think it is the case of this whole, the injury kind of messed up the whole the planning in the first place. If we had this whole thing of Cody beating different people on his way to getting to Roman Reigns or earning his title shot and all that kind of stuff, we would love the story to end at WrestleMania with the championship. Now that it's kind of like feels rushed, or it's kind of not out of nowhere, but he came back from injury to win the Royal Rumble, and it just seems, like a foregone conclusion. I think it would be a great decision to have Roman Reigns retain. How they make that happen, whether it's a clean thing, whether the bloodline gets involved somewhere, whether it's some mix up with Sami in some indirect way, whatever, it's up to them. They've got so many options, but I think it would be a little more interesting. And more interesting, not necessarily for Roman, but for Cody, and then Cody's story from then on, for him to not win. What does Cody do when he doesn't finish the story? How does the story continue?
Right.
That would be the interesting part for me, because he's just talking about, I have to end the story, It all seems like he even knows he's going to win, but what happens if he doesn't?
You are raising a very, very interesting point that I am really liking here, because we're convincing each other right now that maybe Cody winning at Mania may not be the move. So here's what Ron says. Ronell says, I'm still not fully convinced that perhaps it should be main event Jay to take the titles off of Roman. See, that's the other piece in here that's interesting. The subplot that's happening between Sammy and Jay. I still go back to Sammy saying a week or so ago, I acknowledge you, to Jay was huge, you know, and Jay still hasn't picked a side between Sammy and his own brother. So this could have a lot of implications. And again, I think there's a question of who should be the guy. Should it be Sammy? Should it be Cody? Should it be Jay? You know? So Boza says it just came out on social media that on Saturday in Toronto, Roman versus Sammy 2 for both titles. Does that impact Mania? Does it counteract at Revolution? I don't know. I have to go check that. I have not seen that yet to see what the plan is for Saturday, if that is going head-to-head with Revolution. If it's something that we'll even be able to watch on Peacock or something, I don't know. But certainly I'll definitely look to see what that is, because that's some interesting news for sure. Roman Sammy 2 in Toronto, which I think would be crazy. There's a part of me that also would wonder, would they allow a title change to happen non-televised? Like, that hasn't happened in years. You know what I mean?
Not that massive of a title. They did it once with AJ Styles and the United States Championship, I think it was.
Yes. They did it at Madison Square Garden. That's right.
I doubt the title change.
Yeah. I'm not sure if they'll do it. That would be big to do. I don't know. And I think it'd be a crazy thing to do right before Mania. But I don't know. Stranger things have happened. But mentioning Jake the Snake again, last night, for those who did not see, WWE presented Legends biography on A&E as part of their Superstar Sunday series. Last week, they had the stories of the NWO. This week, they had the story of Jake the Snake Roberts. Guys, do yourself a favor and go watch this. I remain convinced that nobody tells a story like the WWE. And, you know, I respect what everybody else is doing, but their ability to tell a story is absolutely riveting. And this story of Jake the Snake, if you don't know anything about his history, you absolutely need to watch it. Now, as you can see from this graphic, there was a really powerful episode of Dark Side of the Ring in season 3 that talked about his childhood abuse. They do go into that on here, and it's really, if you have triggers, then just be careful going into this, because they don't really hold a whole lot back. It's amazing to think how Jake has survived all of this, to be perfectly honest with you. It is really a powerful, powerful story. So if you get a chance, check it out on demand or wherever you check out A&E. I know this season they'll have some things on the Iron Sheik and China and a few other folks that I think will be very, very interesting. So you can check out A&E's Legends biography every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central in the States. That's some really riveting TV there. Okay. I'm going to save that one story for the end. So let's run over and let's try that again. See if that'll play one more time. There we go. The more you know, this is our lead into our vintage wrestling facts, of course. And so let's start with what happened on this particular day in the year 2000. You might remember this because it was on this day that the No Way Out pay-per-view took place. Of course, this is the pay-per-view back in 2000 that preceded WrestleMania. It happened in Hartford, Connecticut. The main event was Cactus Jack putting his career on the line against Triple H's WWE Championship in a Hell in a Cell match. Of course, if you remember the month before, they had a crazy street fight at the Royal Rumble in Madison Square Garden. Absolutely nuts. Well, this one was equally nuts because who can forget the crazy images? You can see Cactus Jack literally laying in a hole in the ring after he was backdropped from the top of the cage through the cell. Yeah, he was supposed to have retired then, but as most wrestling retirements happen, they don't exactly happen as they say. And he was back the next month for WrestleMania, a fatal four-way. Kind of crazy how that happened. Also on that card, Kurt Angle defeated Chris Jericho to become the Intercontinental Champion. He was a double champion at the time because he already had the European title. And then the Dudleys won the tag team titles from the New Age Outlaws, that of course being Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg. All right, so let's fast forward to 1 year later. This is interesting. You guys remember someone called the Cat, and I don't mean Ernest Miller. I mean the woman, the Cat, Stacey Carter in WWE. On this day in 2001 was released from the WWE, and because she was released, her then husband, Jerry the King Lawler, decided if she goes, I go. And so he left the WWE on the same day, ending an 8-year run with the company. Now, as things would happen, he would return in November of the same year. Certainly that was after he separated from the Cat. So, yeah, I'll just let you add any other sort of commentary in there that you want. We'll go to this day in 2014. If you remember, on Friday, we celebrated the anniversary of the WWE Network. Well, the first live event to happen on the WWE Network happened on this day in 2014. It's called NXT Arrival at the old home of NXT. That would be at Full Sail University. The first live broadcast ever on the WWE Network. It was pretty amazing because, ironically, what many don't remember is the first match that was live on the WWE Network involved a guy named Cesaro taking on another guy named Sami Zayn. Very interesting. The main event was Adrian Neville, now known as Pac, taking on Bo Dallas in a ladder match. Adrian Neville would win that ladder match to become the new NXT champion. Pretty amazing stuff for sure. All right, we move on because on this very same day in 2014, we lost a pro wrestling legend. That would be the Shooter Billy Robinson, who passed away of natural causes at age 75. Billy Robinson, a name that many people talk about quite a bit in the wrestling world in terms of all of the people he's trained and the style that he carried. So our condolences. That happened on this day in 2014. This is going to, well, it makes me laugh. Not that. This is what makes me laugh because we moved to this day in 2020. Yeah, before the world shut down, WWE was over in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. What a difference 3 years makes, right? On this day, Goldberg, who had been inducted into the Hall of Fame at this particular point, found himself in a match for the Universal Championship against, of all people, The Fiend. The Fiend had yet to be pinned in this role as The Fiend, but of course, whenever you face Goldberg, all things come to die. And so did The Fiend's undefeated streak. Goldberg would go on to win the Universal Championship against The Fiend on this particular night. On this same night, The Miz and John Morrison, who had been reunited as a team, would win the SmackDown Tag Team Championships from the New Day. That'd be the team of Big E and Kofi Kingston. But this graphic right here is just so interesting to me given all that, of course, Goldberg had to say about a certain halftime performance. Meanwhile, this performance is probably one of those performances that we'd like to forget. Of course, a month later, the pandemic would happen. WrestleMania would go from a massive 80,000 seat arena to absolutely no fans inside of the Performance Center, where he was supposed to fight Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns pulled out. Braun Strowman steps in and becomes the new Universal Champion. So that reign was kind of short-lived there for Goldberg. Speaking of that, well, I think, yeah, that's it. That's it. Goldberg is probably the right place to end these vintage wrestling facts. And so there it is. Yeah, Goldberg. Interesting. But that all happened on this particular day in wrestling history. So before we go, would you like to cover this story?
I'm gonna leave this one to you. I'm gonna leave.
Oh,
this
you would be
jumping.
You would. I am not surprised at all. So let's see. This particular story involves a certain Nature Boy who we can't seem to keep out of the box here on WWT Live. The Nature Boy always finds a way to get himself back in the news. And well, let's just say this. So Flair, back a year ago, back in March of 2022, partnered with Mike Tyson, once known as the baddest man on the planet. They partnered together to create a new cannabis line. The cannabis line is part of Tyson 2.0's cannabis company. And what happened with them is that company acquired a majority stake in Ric Flair's Drip. I'm sure you guys have been hearing about that. Well, recently Flair was on Busted Open, and he is discussing, I'm sorry I'm laughing, but I can't believe what I'm going to say. Flair was discussing the benefits of cannabis. So Ric Flair now is the ambassador of all things cannabis. So he talked about how it helps him sleep. And of course, Mark Henry would ask him if Flair knew of any other medical benefits to marijuana. And then Flair would tell us this. He says he's not that knowledgeable, and there's a lot to learn about cannabis. But he says they're going to have a cannabis for erectile dysfunction. And in his words, and guess who will be the face of that? Woo. Yeah. So, Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, who just celebrated a birthday, by the way, on Saturday. He's 74. And what a way to celebrate your birthday than to tell the world that they're creating cannabis for erectile dysfunction. Yeah, I am sure that somewhere our fearless boss gave us this just so she could have a moment for us to talk about. What do you think this means for the legacy of Ric Flair? Like 74 years old. Every time we turn around, he's in the news, and at times it seems to get more and more outrageous. Now Flair is telling us he is going to be the face of a strand of cannabis that prevents erectile dysfunction. Sir, the floor is yours.
I guess just like his wrestling career, he finds a way to carry on going.
Oh boy.
It's much more outlandish on a weekly basis when it comes to Ric Flair. You know, if he's not cheating death, he's just about staying alive in the ring. Then he's with all the famous rappers. Then he's with Mike Tyson, and he's got this, you know, this cannabis line going on. And then we've got this now. It's the man's 74 years old. I guess he's at an age where you might. That's. I get it. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
I don't even know what to say. I really don't. All of the great puns right now would be taken by Kane. Shout out to Kane, who I'm sure somewhere is just
Right,
going crazy
right.
at the thought of this whole idea. But yeah, I don't know. I'm sure TK somewhere is saying, yeah, but he's an entrepreneur and he's got to stay involved. And I guess he does, multiple
Yes,
streams
that's
of
true.
income.
That's
So
true.
be it. The cannabis industry is a $1 billion industry. So
Mhm.
I get it. I just never thought I'd see the day that Ric Flair would be an advocate for the advantages of cannabis and would have done enough research to know that there's a strand out there. But if there was anybody to do research to
It
figure
would
out
be-
that particular strand, it'd be
it
Ric
would
Flair.
be
Yeah.
the
I
jet
think so.
flying, kiss stealing.
Is he going to add another piece to that now? Jet flying, wheeling, dealing, always up, never down. Like, I don't know. Like, what do we do? what do we do? I mean, like, he's going to add something foolish like that. Like, it's just,
God.
I mean, Space Mountain still lives, I guess. I don't know.
Space Mountain. That's probably
Yeah.
what the brand's gonna be called.
That probably is exactly the strand. Space Mountain.
Wow.
Well,
Wow.
with that said, that's how we're going to end this episode of WWT Live. We appreciate all of you guys joining us. Hey, Dazzle, let the people know how they can reach you on the socials and all that you have going on.
Of course. So you can find me, Black Wrestling Alliance, on Instagram. Also BWA Dazzle on Twitter. Catch me and this man over here with me as well as our good friend Mex on Wrestle Extra every Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. EST, live on the WrestleMania UK YouTube channel.
Awesome sauce. And of course, you can catch me at All Things Bonnerfied, doing commentary for Southern Honor Wrestling. You can check that out on IWTV, which, by the way, I failed to mention that our new matchmaker happens to be the Hall of Famer Jake the Snake Roberts, who was featured last night on WWE's great programming and is working for AEW. How cool is that? So we've got that. We've got Battle Slam you can check out on Fight TV. Nightmare Factory, you can check that out on YouTube, as well as Championship District Wrestling. And you can check out our merch as well at prowrestlingtees.com/Bonnerfied. Now, of course, make sure you're following us here at Women's Wrestling Talk at WW Talk Pod across all the social spaces. All kinds of things are popping off on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok. Check it out. Also, check out the website, www.talkpod.com. There is a new interview that you can check out there, and that is an interview with Foxy Fierce. So definitely check that out. All sorts of great content. And of course, as we are exiting Black History Month tomorrow I got to get my days together. On Wednesday, we walk into Women's History Month. And Women's Wrestling Talk is always going to do it big for Women's History Month. So stay tuned, stay connected to all things that are happening here. Of course, WWT Live will be back on Wednesday at the same time. You can check us out Monday, Wednesday, Friday at this time. Check out our after shows. I believe a show is coming up after this, so stay connected to this channel. The Raw after show is coming, and all of the other cool things with the great programming here. Remember, you are locked into Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Shout out to all of you in the chat who joined us. JD, Boza, Ron. I feel like I'm missing people. Of course, TK, Jermaine, everybody that was here, and those who will join us in post. We appreciate you guys. Until next time.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.